Namaste. We're going to be exploring the history of yoga. The history of yoga is as ancient as when mankind first started to question our place in the cosmos. When we started to inquire, when we had reached a stage of cerebral development, when we could start to then ask ourselves the question, who am I? Where do I come from? When consciousness first started to manifest within the nervous system, when the human being first started to do that, we believe that is the birth of the yoga inquiry. Now, the sort of understanding of yoga as a tradition from the Indian subcontinent, from the Himalayas, to look at that, we got to look at historical perspective, we got to look at the legendary yogis, and so on. We're going to look at 4 legendary yogis: AdiYogi, Krishna, Buddha, and Patanjali, each leaving an indelible mark not just on yoga, but on the history of mankind, on consciousness, and on seeking itself. The very first mention of the word yoga comes in the Rig Veda, the most ancient book in the Indian culture, in the Vedic civilization, where the word yoga is used as yuj, union, the yoking together of horses to draw a chariot. Now, please remember, this is poetry, and it means the yoking together of body, mind, emotions, energy, so that a person goes in one path. Now, that's from the Rig Veda. The first image of a yogi comes from the Indus Valley civilization, a seal which has Pashupati in a posture very similar to the way I'm sitting. Pashupati, the lord of the animals, and that is connected to Shiva or AdiYogi in subsequent times. What we're going to do now is we're going to start with the very beginnings of yoga. To get there, we have to start to understand the role of AdiYogi. AdiYogi, or the first yogi, is said to have been this personality about 8,000–10,000 years ago in the Indian Himalayas, where there was this person who, from the legendary stories, now this is the same character as Shiva, but in the yoga tradition we refer to him as AdiYogi, so there's no confusion for anybody that we're not talking Hinduism, we're talking yoga. Please understand this, yoga predates all organized religion. It predates, some of the characters are the same as we'll see with Krishna and Buddha. The personalities are the same, but when we talk about yoga, it predates all of this. Therefore, when we talk of AdiYogi, there came about a personality who used to spend his time either dancing wildly or sitting in deep states of silence and meditation with just teardrops flowing through joy and ecstasy, dancing and being still. Very quickly, people started to see that this man belongs to a different paradigm. They were very fascinated, and a lot of them came asking him to teach them what is it that he's doing. As is the case with most sort of spiritual inquiries, most were there just for curiosity. And when he didn't bother to answer, he went on in his journey, they all left. 7 people stayed back. And so he gave them some basic practices, breathing, and some practices he gave them. And he continued with his journey of life. It is said that 84 years passed. Now, timelines are of course different in different eons, but 84 years is supposed to have passed, and then he said, now they are ready for instructions. Yeah, this is very fascinating. So on a given full moon night, we even today celebrate that night as Guru Purnima in India. It happens generally after the summer solstice, the first full moon after the summer solstice. So he sat facing the south and started to teach these 7 people. We venerate them in the Indian tradition as the Sapta Rishis, 7 sages. And these 7 sages have completely sort of animated the Indian culture. We started to teach them, and on that day he becomes, from AdiYogi, he becomes even Adi Guru, the first Guru. The word Guru, Gu refers to darkness, Ru to light. So a person who takes you from darkness to light. Now this is not just an expert. We use the word very flippantly nowadays. We say he's a marketing guru or he's a, anything. But that is not what it's meant. It's not an expert. It is a person who has transformed. An alchemy has happened. And therefore that person is a Buddha or a Christ. There are different terms in different cultures to depict a person who has transformed, who is uniquely different from us. Not quantitatively different. It's not that you're doing yoga today, after 30 years of doing yoga, you can call yourself a guru. No. You can be doing yoga for 60 years and teaching for 60 years, and you can be a senior yoga teacher, but not necessarily a guru. A guru is a person who has completely transformed, is no more bound by the human condition, an enlightened person, and then starts to teach. So on that day, he becomes Adi Guru and he starts to teach these 7 people. It is said that he taught them the science. One of the best speakers about this AdiYogi is of course Sadhguru. And he speaks very eloquently about this. It's well worth checking out. He speaks very nicely about the fact that AdiYogi had found apparently 112 ways, 114 ways to enlightenment. 108 of the body and 8 beyond. So what are we seeing here? A very creative person who's willing to go and search the human condition. He didn't teach techniques to the 7 people, but those people took the science and made techniques and then taught mankind. Some of them came through the Indian subcontinent, some went to other parts of the world and taught. The spine of knowledge that we call as tantra animated the entire spiritual disciplines across the globe. The word tantra is composed of 2 words, tanoti and trayati. Tanoti means expansion, trayati means liberation. So the idea is to become more free, to be more liberated through your expansive sense, through your expansion of self, right? Now this is something that we need to understand at depth. Tanoti, expansion. Now if you have a limiting belief, it could be anything. For example, your father was an alcoholic and now you have a lot of anger and animosity towards your father. What could be an approach? Suppose you start to experiment and you start to drink and drink and drink, and then quickly you understand that your father was behaving in a certain manner, not because he was a terrible person. It is just that the chemicals in the liquor was making him behave in a certain manner. Now, by experimenting, by this expansion of your knowledge, you have freed yourself from a limiting belief against your father. This is just an extreme case that I'm sharing with you, but I want you to understand that Tantra is that kind of a journey. Therefore, you're going all the way. And therefore, it is a journey that requires you to be centered. Now, Tantra means, there's a beautiful explanation of a human being in Tantra. We call a human being Gat Akasha. Gat means an earthen pot. So I am an earthen pot, Gat, that holds the cosmos, Akasha within. I have never found a more beautiful definition of a human being. An earthen pot that holds the cosmos within. So what is the role, what is the art of life? You have to break that earthen pot. You have to break that limiting sense of self. Today, I believe that I'm Manish and that I teach yoga, that I'm an Indian by birth, and there are so many identities that I carry. I have to just break those identities to simply, not conceptually, but experientially understand that I am the cosmos within. This is the beauty of Tantra. Now, Tantra is typically not taught. You might find Tantra workshops. You get a bad name for Tantra today. Tantra massage or Tantra sort of sexual chemistry. That's a very, very small aspect of the science. The understanding is that any and everything can be used to become divine. Now, we have chosen, and a lot of us say that what I do in the temple, church, mosque is spiritual. What I do in the bedroom or what I do in the marketplace is profane. In Tantra, it doesn't give you that opportunity to sort of, well, I must be saying something right. It doesn't give you that opportunity to divide life like that. Any and everything is an opportunity to attain to the divine. Any and everything is sacred in life. So there's no divisions. This is a very, very deep and beautiful journey, because now you're saying that you can be meditating throughout the day. Your life becomes your prayer. This is the beauty of Tantra. So please understand how beautiful this journey is. Yoga is a part of that Tantra understanding. Every spiritual discipline comes from there. I want you to very clearly understand, this is not something sick or negative. You got black magic Tantra and so on. Now, when you play with life, you understand that there are many things that are possible for the body and mind. The art of yoga, Tantra, is to go beyond. You're trying to go beyond your limiting sense of self. All of us have reached that stage in our life where we say, no, this cannot be all that there is. Life cannot be wake up, eat, work, sleep, wake up, eat, work, sleep. It cannot be so mundane. There has to be more. When you reach that point, when you're questioning that there has to be more, that is when the journey of Tantra begins. I'd like to sort of finish off with this aspect. Tantra, very, very beautiful journey where we're talking about how to reach a stage in life where you want to break through your limiting sense of self. This is very important for all of us to understand, because once we get this idea right, we understand the exploration of AdiYogi. He was the first person to say that these limiting notions of what the body can do, what the mind can do, why are we limiting what it means to be human? When you break through those limits and you go beyond those limits, you go beyond what it is as a limiting belief, that is when the journey has begun. That is when AdiYogi becomes something so beautiful that he has inspired the Indian culture for millennia. When we look at AdiYogi or Shiva, this is the contribution to human consciousness, to go beyond, to break your limiting sense of self, to understand much more about life. Let's spend about a minute just sitting in silence, recollecting all that we have understood together, perhaps meditating on what are my own limiting beliefs about myself, what is my limited sense of identity. There is that seed of a desire to break through. If that was not there, you wouldn't even be interested in yoga. But somewhere, we have all come to the point where we want to do more, to experience more. And therefore, let us water that seed, that sankalp, to explore more about who we are, our own potential, our own life. This is very important as part of the 21st Century Yoga project, where we are exploring the masters, understanding what they have taught us, and seeing whether it's relevant and how we can use it to transform our body, mind, and energy daily. In the next videos, we will look at the role of Krishna, Buddha, and Patanjali before we look at modern yoga. Namaste.